Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Smart Investor Market Show, where smart investors get their up to date price analysis and market information. What an eventful day we have here on the markets. We had the markets up on the day, and then we saw a turnaround after that Fed announcement. So, we're going to take a look at what exactly is happening on the markets. We also had a big turnaround in the US dollar, where the US dollar started the day down and down sharply against the major currency pairs, the euro, the British pound, and the Canadian dollar. And essentially, we got a huge turnaround after the Fed announcement. So that's what we're going to look at in terms of a technical market update. Okay, so looking at the S&P 500, we see that the market is down slightly. We saw earlier in the day the market was up and flirted with a new high on the futures chart with S&P 500. We saw the market go up to the 2507 level, which again was a new high. The market has not closed at that level, but it was a new intraday high where the market actually touched that level. So S&P 500 continues to make new highs here. Taking a look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, we have looking at the Dow futures come up. Charts are a bit slow today. Okay, so the Dow futures are down also, down slightly on the day. Looking at the Dow, actually it just turns a positive. It's actually up 4 on the day, and the S&P 500 is down 2 on the day. Okay. Now, looking at our support areas in the S&P 500, we find that there is support at the 2220 level and also support at 21600. The major area of support is here at this 21,600 level. Market is making new highs and trying to really get to that 23,000 level. I believe that is a headline that this market wants to see. Dow 23,000, and ultimately I believe it wants to see Dow 25,000, but we have to get to 23,000 before 25,000. So we have some short-term support in the market at this 2280 level. Okay, taking a look at the Nasdaq, we see that the Nasdaq is down 16 points or 0.25%. So pretty much in line with what the S&P 500 is doing at the time. The major market we're going to take a look at before we look at some individual stocks is the US dollar, where we see a huge reversal in the value of the dollar. The dollar, just take a look at a 15-minute chart where the dollar was sinking down, actually touched this 91.20 level. Market touched 91.20, which was the second lowest price of the year so far, and reversed fairly strongly. This was after that announcement by the Fed to end the stimulus. We saw the dollar rally on the news. Initially, the market actually went down. The dollar went down, but we see a huge turnaround situation where the dollar actually rallied on the news. So what is happening here is that the dollar is still flirting with our support here at 92. I've been speaking about 92 for a number of days now, and the market doesn't seem to be able to make up its mind in either direction. Is it going to close decisively above 92, or is it going to break down and continue to the downside? So we are really looking to see what the dollar is up to, and we have no clear indication because over the last couple of days we have seen this choppy price action here around this 92 support level, and it just goes to show the importance of the level. Gold, well, let me just take a look at some of the individual currencies. British pound went to a new high for the year and actually is actually closing down at the moment. The market actually spiked up. This is where we saw the market spike up near the 137 level, and we are actually at 135.03. So the market actually closed to the downside. Canadian dollar, again, market rallied on the day and reversed. And the euro currency, we see a similar situation where the market rallied on the day and has reversed. The euro is finding significant resistance at this 121 level. Hit it once, we saw a downturn. Hit it again, a downturn. Now a downturn. So this 121 level is strong resistance here in the euro. Looking at gold, we see gold pulling back, and I explained that this was a scenario where once we had the initial breakout in gold, we could see the market pull back and pull back strongly, and that seems to be what's happening here in the gold market. We could pull back to the breakout point on the trend line at those 126. Or sorry, this 1260 level, and so we have some downside in gold, and I believe this would be an excellent opportunity in the gold market. A lot of folks were thinking that they missed the boat here in gold once the market started to rally, but as usual, markets give us another opportunity, and we see that we once we get a turnaround situation, the market starts to go back up. This will be a classic buying signal in gold, and a longer term buying signal in gold, I believe, for a multi-month rally. Looking at the crude oil market before we look at some individual stocks, we see that oil actually was up on the day, but we are still in a channel type of situation where the market is simply just going nowhere. There's no real trades to be had in there unless you want to be chopped up and down in the markets. Okay, so let's take a look at a number of active stocks here. A number of stocks that have been moving on the day, active on the day, that we see that really some interest is being garnered. The first one I'm going to take a look at is Citigroup, traditional old stock. We see that the market is moving today. It's up 0.52%, and it's trading up to a new high for the year. So we see Citigroup on a new high for the year. Pretty good uptrend ever since 2016. And the thing with these financial stocks is, and that's why it's good to look at the overhead. We see that looking on the weekly chart, we see massive overhead price action above this stock. So even though it's at $71, since the recovery, it is actually, let me dig down further. And that's why you have folks that look at the new high, the new highs for the year and say, okay, they will buy these stocks. But this stock is up. The low it was that it made was roughly at $13. It's up $71. So like all the financial stocks, it got a pretty good beating to the downside on during the financial crisis, and we see a recovery. This is just not a stock I like to pay attention to because of this massive overhead resistance, but it's at a new high for the year. Intel Corporation is actually down pretty significantly, and it's down 0.64% on the day. And looking at Intel, I know it's a pretty widely held stock, but it's approaching resistance in this 3750 level, And like most other stocks, it also has pretty strong overhead resistance at the high that was made up in 1999 during that dot-com bubble. Okay, looking at Snap and Intel for me, if you are long Intel, that will be a hold. And I would have a stop loss around that 35 region. If it trades below 35, I would be out of it. Snap IPO came out. Snapchat, we have the market move down. Market debut at around $30 level, and the market is still in a pretty strong downtrend. So I wouldn't really be touching this stock at the moment. We had a similar situation with Facebook. When Facebook stock came out, it also was in a downtrend. Okay, so let's take a look at Facebook market. Clearly Facebook has been rallying, but let's just take a look when the stock actually came out. Again, this market went from with much hype, started at 44, went all the way down to 18. So was in a series of lower highs, lower lows. Market sold off, but what we saw with Facebook was a shift in momentum. We started to see higher highs and higher lows, and ultimately this stock moved to the upside pretty strongly, broke resistance, broke out above that IPO level at 45, and essentially has been moving up nicely ever since. And now the stock is trading above $170. So that is what's happening with Facebook. So if you want to do Snap, I would wait until we see a turnaround situation similar to what we saw here in Facebook. Let the market start to trend to the upside before you move in. Alibaba, pretty easy stock to remember. Baba making new highs this week. Market also taking a look at the weekly chart. Market came out 2015, moved down 120, move was cut in half, and then we started to see a shift in momentum where we saw a series of higher highs and higher lows in Baba. And if you are long this stock, it is still a hold at this point in time. Taking a look at Cirrus, would I be buying this stock at this level? No, I wouldn't. But if you are currently involved in it, it is a buy. It is a hold for sure. Okay, Cirrus, $5 stock. Let's take a look at overhead resistance up at the $70 level. Market is just barely struggling at $5. We see the market in an uptrend. If you are long this stock, hold on to it. If it drops below $4.60, I would be out of this stock. But this is a stock I don't really like to be holding on to. These $5 stocks, these are not the stocks I like to look at for any sort of upside. Okay, so that is it for the stock analysis. We were looking at some most active stocks today. If you want a stock analyzed, please send an email to info@smartinvestorcentral.com. We'll analyze your stock, whether to buy, hold, or sell. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.